Welcome to the Mike Abadir Show. You'll want to sit tight this hour as host Mike Abadir and co-host Gino Bacola talk to the experts, celebrities, and figures from the worlds of sports and business of sports. We cover the NFL, baseball, basketball, soccer, and horse racing, so we have all of the bases covered. Now, we just need your participation. Here is your host, Mike Abadir.
Welcome to the Mike Abadir Show. This is your host, Mike Abadir, and I'm alongside Gino Bacola, and we've got a great show for you as usual. And I'm going to try to give this a shot here, Gino. We have Dave Ice Cold Exacta Weaver with us today.
You weren't excited. It's Ice Cold Exacta.
My voice is just too deep to get that high, but I love it.
Another level there. You got to get
yours was a lot better than mine.
Shadows. Another one of those too. Either one. That's the key. You got to be loud and loud and loud. And we're gonna bring in good friend Dave Weaver in just a second. One slight rant before we bring Dave in. We saw an awesome basketball game last night between the 76ers playing the Lakers. They were playing here at Staples Center. Joel Embiid actually had one of the best games you may ever see. 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 7 blocks. He did it on 14 of 20 shooting. So he scored 46 points on 20 shots. He was 16 of 19 from the free throw line. He made a couple threes as well. And this was just an incredible game, Mike, to kind of give you a little flash into the future. But the one thing that pissed me off all night long, right? Embiid's having this incredible game. Simmons is having this great game. But if you're just listening to the game and not watching, you would have thought the Lakers were down by 50 the whole night. Honestly, the whole conversation is Embiid and Simmons, and every time Embiid scores a bucket, makes a great move, here comes Brandon Ingram right back down the other way with the bucket. He scored 26 and 11, and then Kuzma, he also had his career high. He had 24, so awesome game. They were a little, Embiid's awesome. But with Embiid, he's always been talented, Mike. The key with Embiid isn't talent, it's health.
What is it? What is it, like 40 games played in 4 years?
Yeah. And you got to remember, like, people were ripping on Lonzo and they're comparing him. But this is Joel Embiid's 4th year in the NBA. This is Simmons' 2nd year in the NBA. You compare those guys a little bit more to Brandon Ingram, who's taken a big step this year. There was a lot of young talent on the floor. I'm excited. I think this is kind of a little rivalry that we'll have developed now for the next few years. Do we actually play Philly? I say we all the time when I'm talking about the teams. When I say we, I'm talking Lakers, Dodgers, Trojans, and the Lakers will play Philly again coming up soon in a couple weeks. So a fun little rivalry that's developing.
Absolutely. And another one before we get to Dave is I'm really excited for the Celtics and Warriors. I mean, I usually don't get into NBA in November, December, usually until the All-Star break is when I really get into it. But last night's game was probably the first Lakers game that I watched from beginning till end. Thought it was a great game. Like you said, tonight's Celtics-Warriors game should be a great game. A quick congrats to the AL and NL Cy Young Award winners, Kluber and Scherzer, both very well-deserving. I know that you were probably hoping for your boy Kershaw.
It wasn't a Kershaw year, though. He was hurt a couple times. Scherzer deserved it this year. He was his year. He was better during the regular season, and he honestly deserved it. So that doesn't bother me.
And you know what I'm hoping for tonight, by the way, with the MVP awards? I'm hoping that we see, for the first time since 1979, co-MVPs.
You want to split. I know you want to split.
That year there was Stargell and Hernandez. I think this year it would be great to have the tallest guy in the bigs and the shortest guy in the bigs. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Nonetheless.
Wouldn't that be awesome? And Stanton should get it in the NL. So those are our quick opening thoughts.
And we will bring in our first guest for today, good friend of mine. I had the privilege of working with Dave at TVG for the 5+ years that I was there. I did a show that Mike Joyce produced called The Vig, where Dave and I were co-hosts on Sunday mornings, going over each week's football games, breaking down the betting lines. Dave and I have gone on a couple trips together. We went to Presque Isle. I think, Dave, is that where you and I kind of became close, when we went to Presque Isle and you and I were we were up late. It was the first week of football. We were watching that second Monday night game. We were out at a bar at like 1 o'clock in the morning in Pennsylvania. We were getting nice and toasty, and we were sharing some real D-Gen stories. Is that where you and I really got close?
No, I mean, I think we were closer even before that, just, being in the studio together and things like that. But, anytime you go out to Quaker Steak and Lube and have a few beers together. Yeah,
I got to cross that off my list. That was one of mine, to talk about the Lubinades with you, right? On the menu, we were at Quaker Steak and Lube, and we just got such a kick out of the fact that one of the pages had lube. It said Lubinades. So when you're at Quaker Steak and Lube, you got to have some lemonade. So they have all the different flavored lemonades. So that's a nice inside joke we have. Dave, what's going on, man? Let us know. What are you up to right now?
No, I mean, why don't you just talk about 2 more meaningless basketball games and my segment will be over. Gino, nobody cares about the Lakers. Come on.
God, Dave, you know they do. Gosh, come on, man. Wow. With Lonzo Ball, everybody wants to talk about the Lakers, whether or not they're good or bad. Everybody's polarizing. I mean, even his brother just got out of China right now, so there's so much going on with the Balls. You just drove down to Del Mar, right? So you're going to be working. You're going to be working where the turf meets the surf today.
I just pulled into the parking lot right off of Via de la Valle, one of my favorite exits in all of driving up and down, whatever freeway in the world. That Via de la Valle exit still makes me feel like a kid in the candy store when I get off and know that I'm going to Del Mar. So, yeah, I'll be here all week for TVG. Oh, I got a Lakers shirt for you, by the way, speaking of Lakers, because I went to a game last year with a friend, and it was a giveaway night. So it's still hanging in my closet, but I really haven't seen it too much since then. So next time I see you, I'll give you that Lakers shirt.
Okay, I'll take it from you. Dave, let's start at the very beginning. So what are some of your first gambling memories or horse racing memories? Were you first interested in gambling and then it got into horse racing? Was it horse racing at the beginning? Tell us a little bit about how you got your start and becoming one of the all-time greatest degenerates.
Well, I thought I was sick until I met you, and now I feel a lot better about myself. So I grew up at Los, literally Cypress was the city I was born in, and that's the city where Los Alamitos Racecourse is located. So I grew up about maybe like a half a mile from the track. So I was going there when I was, I remember my dad used to take me. He passed away, unfortunately, when I was 9. But a lot of people that I would go with even before that knew that I liked the track. So I ended up going with like friends, dad and stuff when I was like 10, 11, 12. By the time I was 13, I don't even need an adult because I knew the trick of following any random stranger in and saying, "Oh, I'm with him," and then just going under the turnstile. Because if you're under 18 with a paid adult, you're free. So that was one trick that would get me in when I was like 13, 14. And then by the time I was in high school, I would basically be going to the track whenever they're racing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's just a passion of mine. So, yeah, the gambling and the horse racing were all kind of one and the same. When I went to the track, I'd love to make a few bets, obviously. And when you're that young, too, you're 11 years old and you win $10 and you can go to the cafeteria the next morning at school and buy like the powdered donuts and the chocolate donuts. That's like a score.
Oh, gosh, you're real popular then. And then you started doing some work at Hollywood Park years back, right? You even drew like the pace pals, and you would do stuff by hand that would go in the program.
Well, yeah, the first racetrack job I had, I was basically the editor or assistant to making the program, the pocket program. So I would input, the morning line odds, type in the owner's silk, do the page layouts, put some ads in there, and then part of it was do an analysis, like a handicap at the end of the front, give the top 3 picks with a couple of paragraphs. So it kind of got me on my way to becoming a public handicapping figure, so to speak.
Now, Dave, you got into real estate for a while, right?
Yeah, I was doing loans. So not on the real estate side, but on the financial side, which you do need your real estate license for that. But I was doing that prior to TVG, and even while TVG had me at night at Los Al, I was literally not doing anything during the day. So to support my gambling habit, I tried to make more money doing that too, and it worked for a few years until that big crash that happened in, I think it was about 2006, 2007. But I haven't dabbled in it since then. I've just been doing TVG the last 10 years or so.
Couldn't do any more option arms with 3 points on the back anymore, huh?
100% stated income, stated assets.
It's funny. That's like most people that don't know gambling that turn it on, that's what like Greek sounds to them. That's Greek to me, So I had absolutely no idea what language you guys are speaking right there. And Dave, in the last honestly something that Mike and I were talking about yesterday, and something that you and I have talked about quite a bit. For a while, everybody knew you really as the guy on the quarters. But in the last year and a half or so, you've really expanded. I mean, they've had you go to the Preakness the last couple of years. You've been out to Delta. You've been out to Presque Isle. You've been going to Keeneland a little bit. You're at Del Mar now. And this past summer had to have been, as long as I've known you at least, the best maybe month or two that you've ever had as far as your handicapping and your on-air gambling is concerned. It seemed like every pick 5 ticket you were putting up was hitting. They were all, nice return on investments too. It seemed like you were really seeing the ball well.
Well, that was like the summer meet at Del Mar, and I'm trying to carry that into the fall meet here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I was at Los Al literally every week for 15 years probably, and convenient. I still live right there, and it's nice. But once I got a chance to start doing some of the other big events, I started, as you know, trying a little harder, because at Los Al I could just go up and the same horses every night, really, and over and over again. But when I was doing Del Mar, I needed to study harder so I knew what I was talking about. Other than Los Al, I don't know the other circuits as well, so I put more work in, and it paid off. And I think that's a big lesson. You do the work, you should get rewarded. Another thing is when you're on the road and you're in a hotel rather than you're at home and you've got a lot of other distractions going on, it's going to
family and your kids and stuff like that too. Yeah,
clear your mind and watch a few more replays. Yeah, so that has a lot to do with it too, I think. But just working a little harder.
I actually told Mike that I made you better. I told Mike that because of how hard I work, you saw that and it made you a better handicapper. So I take all the credit for that. I hope you understand that, Dave.
There's plenty of mirroring that you could take into that. Yeah. No, nobody does more than you. I mean, you pour everything out into your handicapping. So I'm not.
And nobody's more humble. Nobody's more humble either than I am. So we can definitely say that. And let's talk before we get into some of this week's NFL games. Let's talk a little bit about a story that you told me. This is a great story. When you were in Vegas with your friend, he had a good winning day. He's a little tired. He's about to go to sleep. Tell me this story that you've told before and had me rolling on the ground. This is a true story when like you said to me earlier, that some of us degenerates are we're just wound a little differently than other people. This is something other people would never even think about doing. What happened that one night in Vegas?
Well, he actually wasn't even having a winning day. He had a parlay alive. This is back in the day. I think they still do it when, the Hawaii game is the last game on the board at like 9:30 or something. So he had like a 3-teamer or a 4-teamer ending to Hawaii, and it was going to be worth like $1,100 or something. He had a ticket. I was 22, I think. He's probably like 25. When our young 20s were staying at the Stardust or some dive, So, yeah, he's tired. He passes out at halftime. They're winning. And I'm like, wow, if they win, and I'm broke. Believe me, this is like it's a 3-day trip, and this is the first day. That's how I do it. I just tap out. I just have no patience. So I'm broke, and I'm thinking if this team wins, and there's $1,100 laying on this table, and he's asleep, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to sleep in Vegas at midnight if there's $1,100 right there. So anyways, they win. I figure I'll borrow $100 from him, put $1,000 back when he wakes up. He's happy that they won. He didn't even know if they won or lost. So I go down, I cash the ticket, I lose the $100. Well, I ain't going back up. Now I got nothing. Now I lose another $100. Now I start to sweat. Now I'm down like $300 or $400 of his money. Long story short, I lose it all. It's probably 1 a.m. Don't even know how to go back up and tell him. And I'm walking through. This is back in the day where they actually did have the 25-cent slot machine still. So I'm walking from the blackjack table towards the elevator, and I reach in my pocket, and I have 75. There's 3 quarters. The parlay probably played $1,175. There's 3 quarters in my pocket. Sit DJ, and I am thinking, well, if I can turn 75 into $5, I know that that's the minimum to play blackjack, and maybe I can get hot. Who thinks that way? I don't know. Degenerates. So I put 75 cents in the thing and get like a cherry. I know that this story sounds so made up because slot machines these days don't even have cherries anymore. They're all computer and you can't put quarters. but this is so long ago. Put 3 quarters in. I won like $1.50. I got $5. Somehow I got to 5. I think bar and cherry. Got to $5, cashed out. My dream is alive. Until you're down to nothing, I guess you got hope. I went back to the blackjack table with $5. Swear to God, Gino, I probably won 19 hands in a row. I made $13,000.
What?
75 cents.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I've heard this story a few times, and it's always is exciting. And the one thing that Mike Joyce has said, and I agree with it completely. If you had $1 and you needed to make 1,000, Dave is the guy you call. But if you have 1,000 to bet, you never call Dave. It's the one or the other, right?
$1.
He'll turn it into $1. But when
I got to give myself credit for not being as big of a degenerate. As time goes on and I realized what happened, I went back up. I could have just given him $1,100 and kept the whatever 12,000 and change. I told him the whole frickin' story, gave him the 13,000. I gave him the money, and I think he ended up splitting it with me. So I screwed myself out of 6,000. But what a nice guy I am in the end, right?
And you know,
wow.
Knowing how the relationship that you have with some of the people that you hang out with and some of your friends, that's how you are, though. I will honestly say, because that's one thing that us degenerate gamblers are. In the same story, you talk about stealing a ticket that a guy doesn't know, but then you end up giving him all back this money. You know what I mean? That's what's great about a gambler, is that you're wound a little differently. So when you have nothing, you're getting the shakes, but then when you have it all, you're so giving. We're all so the two gentlemen that I'm on the line with right now have both in the last couple months had an opportunity where Dave's hit one day and then he's called me and been like, I know you've looked at these races, so let's put in a pick 4, and if it hits, then we can split it. And Mike's done the same thing for me, and I've tried to do the same thing for Dave. So that's what's great with us gamblers, that we're always trying to kind of help each other out when we can. And Dave, you've got a good group of people right now, because in the last year or so you got hooked up with War Story, who was just an awesome 4th in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Tell us a little bit about how that all happened.
Yeah, he got beat, I think, a half a length to 3rd and 4 lengths for it all. Well, his owner, Lutz Racing, really, really good guy, likes to gamble just like us, and he's, followed TVG and always kind of taken a liking to me. So, we became friends, and I'd followed the War Story for a year or two. He was on the Triple Crown Trail. He was in the Derby. He lost to American Pharoah. He finished 16th. But before the Breeders' Cup, not this year but last year, he said, I'd like to, maybe it was even 2 years ago. I think it was at it might have been 2 years ago. He said, I want you to experience, the excitement that I am with this horse. And he basically let me in on the horse for free, and made me a very, very, very small ownership partner. But to me, it feels like I own the horse, So every time he runs, I've got a little bit of added interest.
What's next for War Story?
That's a good question. There are certainly a lot of options right now. With the race that he ran, should he get an invite to go to Dubai? That's a $10 million race. You got the Pegasus that he's not planning on going in, but if something happened where there was a spot that opens up, you can't rule that out for, what is that, an 8-figure race now? So it's kind of up in the air. There's nothing really in stone right now.
Hey, before we get to commercial, does this Pegasus have longevity? Or is it going to be year by year? I mean, some years it's going to make sense, some years it's not, right?
It does. There hasn't been as much talk about it this year as there was last year at this point.
No.
Definitely we can say that.
And I think some years, just like anything, some years there aren't a ton of top handicap horses, or maybe they retire towards the end of the year after the Breeders' Cup, and it's just it won't be necessarily the sexiest race in the world, and that's going to be the problem. Last year there was a little bit more buzz because, as you mentioned, Dave, it was the first time we've seen it. So I agree. I don't think it will last. Dave, I know you're at Del Mar. We're going to take a break. When we come back, do you have 5 minutes to go rapid fire through some football games?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. We'll take a break then. When we come back, I think we have 7 games on the slate. We'll do little quick hitters. We'll pick one side of the games, and then whoever loses between you and I, since neither one of us has any money, we'll just bet a beer and a shot. That was always the Mike Joyce bet with me. And you can also tell us you don't really like Mike Joyce. Let's be honest, right? You just pretend to on TV.
Some days I like him more than others.
On that note, let's take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back with Dave Ice Cold Exacta Weaver in a minute and a half.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
If you're looking for more information on firearms and the shooting sports, check out Taking Stock with Kelly McMillan. Kelly is the owner of McMillan Fiberglass Stocks with over 40 years of experience. Now he's ready to share some industry luminaries and their perspectives with you. If you're interested in firearms, whether it be for shooting, for fun, competition, hunting, or self-defense, Kelly is here to share his wisdom and experience. Listen live for Taking Stock with Kelly McMillan, Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Sports Channel.
Want to experience football from the perspective of 2 former players who also have coaching experience? Tune in to Sports Info UM with Daryl Oliver and Sam Sword. We'll talk about the drafts, play-by-play, and even what's happening in the offseason. Daryl and Sam have the connections and the knowledge to bring you the inside stories of the game's past, present, and future. We'll cover the camps, on and off field, and everything else, football and beyond. Sports Info UM is heard Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Sports Channel.
Your internet flagship station for sports, Voice America Sports.
This is the Mike Abadir Show. If you want to call in today, we can be reached at 1-888-346-9144. That's 1-888-346-9144. Or send an email to mike@themikeabadirshow.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Mike Abadir alongside Gino Bacola and TVG's Dave Weaver. Dave, before we get to some NFL talk, let me quickly ask you, any chance that we're going to see you on the quarters, maybe for some of Los Al's big races, Champion of Champions, things of that nature? And then the second part of the question is, how is Les Onaka doing? I know he was on the air about 2-3 weeks ago, but we haven't seen him much. If you could maybe quickly tell us about that, and then we'll get some NFL stuff.
Yeah, it was great to see Les back, at least for a night. Hopefully he can kind of make some of those guest appearances here and there. He's had a lot of health issues over the last few years. He's got asthma. He has diabetes. I think the combination of those two. And we're out. We're not in the studio either. We're out at night. There's people. It's a racetrack. There's like cigarette smoke. I mean, it's not a good spot for him. So he's kind of been just staying away from the track, trying to get better. And I hope that day comes where he can be back in a regular part of the quarters. And then he had some nerve damage too, where it really affected the way that he was getting around, and he just kind of had to slow down. And at one point, he was even using a walker, which he does not need anymore, I've been told. So that's progress. But
That's
it's been
good.
a rough, probably year or two for him. But I'm keeping the faith that he's going to come back and be a part of the show that he and I have basically been on for a decade and a half. And I'll be back next week. I'm at Del Mar here this week. And then Thanksgiving weekend, I'm going to be at Los Al that entire week. And then, I would think the champions and the Los Alamitos 2 million, they would probably have me down there.
Sounds good. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that and give our best to Les. We love Les Onaka and hope to see him in good health and giving good analysis as he always does. Okay, let's turn our attention to some NFL talk here. Your beloved Pittsburgh Steelers are on tonight. And before we talk about their matchup, really quickly, do you think that that they could take down the Patriots this year? I heard a stat with the Skip Bayless and Shannon this morning that Brady is 10-2 against Pittsburgh, and since 2005, 22 touchdown passes, 0 INTs. What do you think of the Steelers this year?
No, I've loved them from the very beginning, but typical Steelers, we beat the good teams and we lose to the teams that we're supposed to get by, which is what scares me about tonight. Tennessee has actually beaten the Steelers 2 out of the last 3, and the game that the Steelers did win, they only won by 3. So everything tells me that Titans is probably the right play tonight, getting the touchdown.
What do you think, Gino?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think 7 is too much. I do think the Steelers win. This is a Steelers win by a field goal kind of game to me. But 7 is just too much. I mean, Pittsburgh's been beating teams because of their defense and because of their talent, but Ben hasn't really played well all year, and this isn't the same kind of Pittsburgh team that just really outscores you. This is a team that has a great defense. I think it's a low-scoring game. I'm taking the Titans plus the 7.
Okay, then let's do some rapid fire here before we let Dave go. Detroit at Chicago. Detroit's -3.
I'm going to go – go ahead, Dave.
The Bears.
Bears. I'm going to go over the 41 in there. These games have been close. It's a division game. Lions are scoring. I'm going to go over the 41.
Kansas City at New York Giants. -10 for the Chiefs.
Let's go. I love the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are loaded, but something tells me that why do they have to win by that much? Giants are going to want to at least save a little bit of face this year with a decent game. I'll take the points. I'll take the Giants.
Yeah, see, this is a game where the Chiefs are definitely going to win. Remember, Andy Reid off the bye. He's 16-2 off the bye. That's one of those crazy stats. But this is a game where, again, I'll go over. The over-under is 45.5, so I could see the Chiefs winning this game by 7. I heard somebody talking last night. The only way you bet this game is if you think the Chiefs are going to be up by 18 with 2 minutes to go, because that backdoor touchdown cover could just kill you late. So for me, this is a game where I'd play the over. And then our next game, we've probably one of the best games of the week. Who would have thought before the beginning of the season that the Vikings and the Rams is one of the best games of this week? The Rams are actually +2. Who do you go here?
I love the Rams every week. I keep playing the Rams, and I keep coming out ahead. They, I think, still are very, underestimated as far as the Vegas line goes, just because the average bettor is not having the Rams on their radar. But until they go into a slump, I'm going to keep playing the Rams.
I'm with you. I'm on the Ramily, and I'm going. This is a game that I would play money line also. You're getting 2 points. Just turn those 2 points into a +140 and play the game straight up with the Rams.
And they're awesome on the road, too.
Chargers at home, given 4.5 against the Bills.
Well, see, this is the key. I don't know why Tyrod Taylor is not starting. The Bills have struggled lately, but it's not his fault. He doesn't throw picks. He runs a good offense. He does what he's supposed to do. Buffalo started this season really, really well, but I don't know if McDermott has made a few kind of questionable moves as of late. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm actually going to play the Chargers minus the 4.5 against the rookie QB.
Chargers are one of my favorite teams to bet against when they're favored. They almost always choke when they're supposed to win. Not only will I take the points, how about the Bills on the money line for my upset of the week?
Wow.
I like
Got
it.
the wrong team favored.
I like it. A big game. Eagles-Cowboys. Dallas is hurting right now. We saw them just get destroyed on the offensive line last week. Defensively, they have a couple players missing, and then Zeke is out. It's over 49, and the Eagles are actually favored on the road by 4. I'm going to go over. I do think the Eagles probably win this game. The 4 is what scares me because I would much rather have it be 3. But I think the Eagles score a lot in here. I think Dallas will score a little. I think it's going to go over 49, so I'll have a couple overplays this weekend.
This is one of those games that Philadelphia can absolutely afford to lose, and they're still in a great spot. I mean, it's not a must-win, but I think Dallas has to win here. I like the Cowboys.
And then Battle of the Birds, Seahawks, given 3.
I love this game. Who do you like, Gino?
I like Seattle. The Falcons are not good on the road. Seattle has some issues, some injuries. Sherman last week. But to me, the Falcons just are not the same team on the road. They have not been as good, I think, because of the last week's victory. I think people are going to be a little deceived by them. For me, I'm going with the Seahawks.
You've had every over until this one. This is one of these games. If your dying grandmother gave you $100 on her deathbed and said, son, whatever you do in life, spend this $100 wisely, bet it on the over in the Seahawks game and make her proud.
Wow.
I understand. Defenses have been struggling. No Sherman. They're going to go back and forth. The Seahawks
score 75 points in this game.
Yeah, they could go absolutely back and forth, up and down. So there are 7 games. We'll make sure to post all the sides that Dave and I were on, and so that way all the folks out there listening can hear and play along with us and or make fun of us when we lose.
Well, I'll tell you what, as an NFL agent, obviously I don't dabble in any of the gambling when it comes to NFL or anything like that, but I'll be very, very entertained to see who owes who a beer and a shot after this good 7-game sequence here. Dave, super thankful for you joining us. We know that you're up against the clock and have to head into Del Mar to do your thing. Why don't you tell us where we can get a hold of you and follow you and all of your social media handles?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at IceColdExacta, and then you can catch me on TVG every day at Del Mar this week and at Los Al next weekend.
Awesome, my man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dijon. I'll call you later. We'll talk some racing for tomorrow because I know you'll actually have a few bucks. It's payday.
Oh, thanks for the reminder.
All right, Dave. Take care, my friend. Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Let's immediately segue to our next guest. He's been on hold for a couple of minutes here. Busy guy, good friend of mine. He is the assistant coach, football coach for Southern Utah University. They're having a fantastic season, and I think they're going to make a good playoff run here. Let's welcome in Coach Aaron Fernandez. Aaron, good morning or good afternoon for you in Utah. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Mike. How you doing?
Excellent. I'm alongside my co-host, Gino Bacola, and we want to get right to it. You guys are having a fantastic season. You're first in the Big Sky, overall record of 8-2, conference record of 6-1. You guys have won 6 in a row. You have one final regular season home game left against Northern Arizona. Should be a good matchup. You guys are feeling good going into this game. And what's been the secret to your success so far?
Yeah, I think we are feeling good going into this game. We've been obviously chugging along. I think the success has come from our players' approach to every week. We've just been focusing on going 1-0. Had a setback earlier in the year. I think obviously kind of woke everyone up, and we started focusing on the little details and the process of things. And so we've been fortunate enough to put us ourselves in this position to play for a conference championship and some implications in the playoffs. So we're just continuing to focus on the details and trying to go 1-0 every week.
Now, for those who don't know, is there a college football selection committee, and what's the playoff format like?
There is a college selection committee. They do. There's 2014 playoff, and they do a couple playing games. They have 8 teams that get a bye, and so there's some. You get if you win your conference in the certain conferences, you get an automatic bid. So there's a couple different things that go into it, and the selection part of it. And there's a committee that has their the things they check off and the boxes they check off to try to determine who goes in and who gets left home. And so that's why it's important. If you can control your own destiny and win your conference, then you can punch a ticket in. So that's what we're focusing on.
And does that give you guys a bye then?
That would hopefully give us a bye, yep.
Okay, and it's not neutral fields, right? So you'd actually get home games as long as you keep winning if you're the higher seed.
Correct. Yep, that's how it goes. So it's obviously a big thing if you can get a home game. Obviously a big deal if you can get a bye. It is a gauntlet that you got to go in. If you don't get a bye, you got to have basically another season. You got to win 5 games. At the end of the day to get to that national championship. So it's a big deal if you can get a bye, and then obviously playing at home. Everyone loves playing at home.
Hey, Coach Gino Bacola here. I know that Nick Miller has had some success. I know that was one of Mike's clients, and since then, the last 4 or 5 years, I was reading this great article. You guys have really had some good success getting players to the NFL. That's got to be something that's a really good tool when you go to recruit, to be able to use some of these players and say, look, you can come here, we can get to the NFL. Have you, was there anything specific? I know when it comes to culture, it's the little things, but could you really feel your program change over the last few years? Because you guys have really become a powerhouse.
Yeah, I think there was a shift in momentum. I think obviously internally as a coaching staff and a football program, we felt that through a lot of hard work and some ups and downs, the program was heading in the right direction. We thought if we continue to focus on recruiting and getting the right type of guys and really having a vision and really attacking that vision. And we thought that we could get enough players in here in this type of atmosphere that we could start really having success and really sustain success. That's been our real goal. Is we've had some winning seasons, but it was always followed up by maybe a losing season or a 500 season. So that's really been our main focus, is trying to get a program that on the national level is considered a consistent winner. And so obviously when you get some players in here that get a shot in the NFL, then we get two guys drafted, you start creating a little bit of buzz, and all that buzz is positivity. And so we've been able to run with it.
To piggyback off of Gino's question, I mean, the interesting thing to me about it is some of these guys weren't heavily recruited. Some of these guys were undersized or, maybe lacked, the bigger conference speed, if you will. What have you guys done to work with these guys in order for them to reach their fullest potential?
I think you have to, when you go and sit down in a kid's living room, you got to have a vision. And, we focus on our recruiting at this level is really based more on the developmental side of things. And so you got to kind of see a kid in high school you can't be scared that he's not getting a lot of recruiting attention. If you have a vision on how he fits into what you do, maybe on offense or defense or special teams, and then you kind of got to have that vision and you got to attack it. And if you can sell that plan, and then they can buy into that, then that's when you see the guys like Miles Killebrew, LaShawn Sims, that had no offers out of high school, really develop, spend 5 years here working their tails off, and then getting a ton of playing time. That's the other thing. Early playing time, I think, is a big thing for these guys that transition from the small schools into the NFL. They have a lot of reps under their belt. So that's been the key thing, focusing on the developmental vision.
No, that kind of leads me to kind of an age-old question when it comes to, let's just say, like the NFL draft, for example, right? Do you draft based on we're going to take the best available player on the board, or does an NFL team draft based on need for the team? How do you guys approach it?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's a needs thing, but then we gotta being in the FCS level. When you look at the recruiting, every kid that's competitive, they're really trying to hone in on trying to get the highest level competition scholarship they possibly can. So for us, we don't necessarily get the first pick when it comes to offers and things like that. If we had an offer to a kid and say he got 2 Mountain West offers, then we're probably going to have to start looking in another direction. That's the reality for us. And so we got to kind of do a little bit of both. If we need a needs thing, then we might have to go look for more of a mature guy that might be coming out of junior college that's a little bit more developed already. But we can't fill our whole roster up with guys like that. We have to have guys that have we have the vision in there for them, and we are more looking at their future maybe a year or two down the line compared to coming in and being a true freshman and contributing right away.
Go ahead, Gino.
One thing I had read too, which is, it's kind of a positive and a negative, as you mentioned. You got to know the right kind of kids to recruit. But from some of the articles that I was reading about former students from the school and from the area, what they liked is they said, I went there wanting to play football, and there, it's not a party. It's obviously you can party and you can have fun anywhere you go. But when they went there, they went to play football, to focus on football, and they said because you can stay home, you can have a little fun, or you can work hard. They continue to work hard. And so to me, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you guys continue to overachieve. It seems like you're recruiting the right kind of kids and you're recruiting the right kind of players who have the drive to want to get to the NFL. That's the key. There's plenty of people who have talent, but if you don't want it and you don't put in the reps and the work, they're never going to get there. So I think from what I've read, how do you feel that your location and some of the guys that you recruit kind of helps create that team that you want, that atmosphere where winning is important and working hard is important?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I mean, it's something that we don't keep hidden. When we go in and recruit kids and we're serious about them and we're sitting down with their mom and dad, we're going to make sure they understand fully what they're getting into. And, if we in the early part of the recruiting process, we're going to know if that kid's the right type of kid or not. I mean, they have to be interested, like you said, in going to school and playing football. And there's ways to have fun out here. but it's just a smaller community, so those type of distractions are much more limited. And I think that's, like you said, I think that's a positive for us. So as long as the kids that we're recruiting, we're upfront about that. They understand that. They get that feel when they come on their recruiting trip. But the main thing we're able to provide, and because of that atmosphere, is very family-oriented. We're very close with our players. The player-coach relationship is thriving, I think, because of that. And we're a part of these guys' lives because we see them on an everyday basis. It's not a big city. And so we're around their lives a lot. They're around our lives, our families. And so it kind of becomes this atmosphere where everyone really cares about each other. And obviously I think that's a recipe for winning.
Outstanding. Well, hey, can you join us for one more segment, Aaron?
Of course, sure.
Okay, well, we're up against the clock for the next commercial break. So we will be back in a minute and a half. We are with Coach Aaron Fernandez, Southern Utah University football, having a great season. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Okay, sports fans, here's your opportunity to discuss football, America's favorite sport. On an annual basis, millions of people attend, watch, and listen to football, both pro and college. Ray Ellis Sports, an internet talk radio show, was developed with the fan in mind. Join host, former Philadelphia Eagles and Cleveland Browns strong safety Ray Ellis on Voice America Sports every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for exciting, interactive football discussions from the fans' perspective. Tune in every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific to Ray Ellis Sports right here on the Voice America Network, and let's talk football.
Get ready for the Get Down with Hurley Brown. Want to get inside of the minds of the players and coaches? We'll talk everything sports, but with a focus on the NFL, NBA, and college football. We'll review and preview the week's big games. We'll talk about the draft choices and free agents and go inside the teams for news, recruiting, and what's next from the colleges to the pro teams. It's the Get Down with Hurley Brown. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 noon Pacific on Voice America Sports.
Your internet flagship station for sports, Voice America Sports.
This is the Mike Abadir Show. If you want to call in today, we can be reached at 1-888-346-9144. That's 1-888-346-9144. Or send an email to mike@themikeabadirshow.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Mike Abadir and Gino Bacola chatting it up with Coach Aaron Fernandez from Southern Utah University football. They are having an outstanding year. We're talking everything from recruiting to their upcoming big game. And let's start with that, Coach. What's the game day preparation and game day approach like as you head into a big game this weekend? Kind of walk us through, what's the practice schedule like? What's the...
Well, even if you can, elaborate a little bit more, even for someone like me, what's your week like? Like, what's the normal week like each day? Kind of give us a little bit of an overview.
Okay. Well, on Sunday, obviously, that'd be after the game. We come in, and that's when, kind of as coaches, we get on the game film, and then really all we're focusing on cleaning things up, corrections, and we don't, our players, we don't see them on Sunday, so that's their day doing their thing. So as coaches, we'll come in, get that stuff done. Usually, it's not too long of a day. Get out of here mid-afternoon, go see our families, and then. Come Monday, that's the day that's big about. It's kind of I think it's probably pretty similar most staffs, but that's when you kind of really get going. Game plan. Obviously, guys jump on it Sunday night, and then Monday's a big game plan day. You're game planning for your next opponent, and then when you see your players that day, that's more of just you're going to review the game that you played. You don't practice or anything, or we don't practice anything like that on Monday. So that's how we approach those first couple days early on in the week, where we put the final game that we just played to bed. And then come Tuesday, we'll meet with our players. We'll hand out the scouting report. And then really how we kind of view it is Tuesday and Wednesday are big work days So obviously as coaches and the coaching staff, we have our meetings and our individual meetings, and then we get with our players and start to focus on the game plan for that next opponent. And so you do that Tuesday, you do that Wednesday, and then so those are your big work days. We call those work days, big workloads, higher reps, and you're really focusing on kind of ironing out the details for this next opponent. And then once you start getting into the tail end of the week on Thursday, call that Fast Thursday. That's just a crisp practice. Anything from Tuesday or Wednesday that you're focused on cleaning up, you focus on that day, clean it up. It's a quick practice, not a lot of reps. You're in and out, and you're really just trying to have a couple game scenario situations, and you execute those, and then you get out of there. Friday's like a walkthrough day. You have dinner with your team, things like that, where we have a couple speeches, things like that, and everyone does it a little bit different. And then Saturday, you do your pregame meals and get ready to roll.
That's good stuff. And is there any extra emphasis on a game like this weekend, or do you guys try to keep it, like you said, 1-0, every opponent's the same, every opponent is just as worthy of 100% attention to detail, and how do you keep things loose and relaxed, especially before everybody knows it's a big game?
I think that's important that you approach it that way. Obviously, every team is going to be a little bit different, and every team proposes different challenges in every facet of the game. But for you on your side, part of this this game is you got to focus on what you do, and it is about you a lot of the time. So you really just like you said, we do have the 1-0 approach. I think that probably gets thrown out a lot. You hear a lot of people talk that way, but I do think it's the best way, and it's the way we've been able to have success. Is we got to give credit where credit's due. Focus on where the challenges that opponent that you're facing that week brings to the table. And then you focus on how you do and what you guys do to accompany those things and challenge that team in those ways. And that's kind of how we do it every week. So, yeah.
I'm not trying to create any bulletin board material here, but do you guys have like a hated rival or a heated, let's just say a heated rival, a rival where you're like, you know what, we got to beat these guys?
Well, in the Big Sky, you have two rivals that you play every year. So we have a 13-team league, and those teams are going to rotate every year. But every year though, no matter what the rotation happens, you'll play your two rivals. For us, it's Weber State and NAU. So those are what is considered our rivalry games, and there's trophies on the line for those games. So those are our two rivals per se.
And there's some regional proximity. I'm sure there's some recruiting, advantages to winning that game.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking to a lot of the same kids as far as recruiting goes. You tend to know people on the staff, obviously, from working in a close proximity. So all the things that come with the rivalry game make it a good game, which is awesome. That's what college football is about.
Yeah, now back to recruiting for a quick second here. If you could explain to the audience and to Gino and I the difference in terms of the caliber of athlete, let's just say in the Big Sky versus the Pac-12, for example.
Okay. I think I think definitely in this day and age the gap is narrowing a little bit, but I think you have to look at it a little bit more position specific. I think when you're looking at Power 5 conferences, when you look at some certain positions. They obviously, they get the cream of the crop per se. They're getting guys and athletes that are very well developed at a young age. When you look at and you go off all the whether you put a lot of weight in it or not, the rivals and the scouts, the 5 stars and the 4 stars. A lot of those kids are getting national recognition for a reason. So I think like it's big in the position at the O-line position. I think when you look at some of the quarterback positions and the skill positions, you can see a little bit of a difference. But I think where the gap is really narrowed is in the skill positions. We do see a lot of guys, whether it's because of some of the transfer rules moving forward or guys really focused on trying to get early playing time opportunity for the NFL. You see skill players every week that I assume could be playing in a lot of conferences. I think that's a big thing that pops out. So I think kind of looking at it from a position-specific standpoint, when you look at a Power 5 compared to a Big Sky, that's where you're really going to find the differences. But we're littered with really good athletes and speed, and that's the beauty of the recruiting game, and finding those guys that are hidden gems and not talked about a lot and things like that.
Boy, that's got to feel good when you kind of strike gold with somebody, find that diamond in the rough, so to speak, where everybody was maybe giving somebody an undeserving grade or an inaccurate grade, and you pluck somebody out, give them the right coaching, the right training regimen. It turns out to be a really good player. That's got to feel really, really good.
It does. That's it. That's kind of what you're working so hard on in recruiting, making phone calls, and trying to, obviously, part of our job is judging character and obviously trying to find guys that are the right fit. And for some reason, it might not be the right fit for some schools, but it is the right fit for us. And when those guys work out and have outstanding careers, and really not just even athletically, when they go on and do something big in the other world that they've been working hard on in the academic side, or they'll go be a doctor or whatever it may be. Those are the cool stories for sure.
Aaron, I kind of have an opinion, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. To me, it seems like with a program like yours, when you're not necessarily getting the top tier of guys, and that's for many reasons. Maybe guys who have struggled, injuries, as you mentioned, maybe they want to be in a certain different place, whatever their mindset is. But to me, it seems like when you're able to recruit some of your players, there are probably a lot of times players that have had to work even harder already to get to where they are, because they might not be the biggest or the most naturally talented. It's gotta be nice when you're coaching a group of guys that are like that. And I think, kind of piggybacking on that to the next level, when you have these kids in, can you tell by their work ethic and say, this kid feels like an NFL kid?
Yeah, I think part of that comes when they kind of hit their maturity curve in college, and they maybe just finished their sophomore year, and they're getting into those the real I think when you're looking at a college kid's film, especially from a smaller school, as the league's looking at it, they're gonna have really big junior and senior years. So I think there is a moment, and we've had some of those moments with our guys where we just see them growing so rapidly in the program, in our program, and responding to the weight room very well, and then making plays early at an early age. There is kind of that, you start to have that thought and that vision, and this kid could be something special. And, I think there's going to be a lot of scouts probably coming around looking at this kid. And then that's when you kind of really start to know that they're interested is, through that junior year, and based on the type of year that he's having, you start to see the scouts around the offices more and more. So it starts to confirm a little bit of that. But I think there is always that moment for a kid in our program where we do start to talk about this kid could have a future playing football at the next level for sure.
Kind of on the same lines as what Gino just kind of brought up, I see it all the time, at the NFL level, where, even going back to a player that you and I both obviously know very well, former client of mine, Nick Miller, who Gino brought up at the beginning of the show. That year, I remember distinctly, Nick and another client of mine both were on the Raiders as rookies during the same year. And the other client is Lewis Rankin. And, he wasn't necessarily a small school prospect. He was from University of Washington, but they both were undrafted free agents and came in. And I just remember thinking, these guys are kind of up against it a little bit because, they used draft picks on Darren McFadden and wide receivers and, Lou as a running back. And these guys came in and really, really busted their butt. And, I see it year in, year out where the guys that come from the smaller schools that are going up against the guys that are coming in from Alabama and high draft picks, it seems like they're a little bit hungrier. They're a little bit, They kind of know that they're kind of up against it a little bit, and they work a little bit harder. And it's not a surprise to me at all, being in the business for as many years as I have, seeing guys, that are rounds 4 through undrafted free agents succeed over guys who are first, second, and third rounders. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
man, I think that chip on the shoulder, it exists, and you get those guys that are hungry for that, and really, nothing's going to deny them from that. And then a lot of those guys have that at a really young age as well. I mean, I grew up with Nick. We played the same high school. I'm only a year older than him, so we played a lot of football together. He's been like that since I've known him, So I think those guys carry that on, and they keep that chip on their shoulder throughout any process. And whatever room they step in or whatever team they get put on, they're going to do their darndest to make sure that they're noticed.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's like anything in life, where if you go in where things are kind of handed to you, you may take it for granted a little bit. Whereas if you have to work a little bit harder, it kind of is a little bit more meaningful, and also the other thing too is they're a little bit more resilient. You never hear about a late rounder being a bust because they're a late rounder. Their expectations weren't quite there, right? So they're more resilient in that if they've been cut once or twice and then they latch onto an opportunity with another ball club and they're in a different system, you could tell that they're kind of a little bit more battle tested. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
And I think
I think that's part of it too. Like I said, I think when you get the battle tested part of it, I think a big thing is getting reps under your belt, and that's I think a part of why those small school guys do eventually make an impact in the league is they do play a lot of football. I think that's a benefit.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming close to the close of the show here, and first of all, just wanted to, Gino and I both thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, man. Great job.
Absolutely. You're so polished. I
appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so polished on the air, and I see big things coming for you. You're a great coach. I was telling Gino yesterday, vastly underrated. You guys fly a little bit under the radar, but hopefully, you guys keep winning and have a good playoff run, and that'll change for the good for you, and it'll open up eyes to your program and to your entire coaching staff, and specifically to you, because I'm a friend of yours, root for you, and want to see you guys succeed and want to see you personally succeed. So for those who kind of want to follow along, maybe if you could give out social media handles and maybe how they can watch the upcoming game this weekend and things of that nature.
Yeah, so to follow SUU football, it's at SUUFB. That's a game tracker that'll give you updated tickers throughout the game. I'm at Coach A-Train99, and then obviously hashtag T-Bird Nation, and shout out to all T-Bird Nation.
Outstanding, man. You killed it.
Thank you, Aaron.
I want to see you guys kill it this weekend and make a good playoff run, and maybe we could chat about it a little bit later on down the road when you guys are champions.
Sounds good, Mike. Appreciate it. Gino, appreciate it.
All right, Coach. Excellent.
Awesome.
Best of luck.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that interview because it's just very raw, very real, didn't hold back, just gave it the way it is, G.
No, he's great. And you got to those are the guys that make up a football team. They're not all a Tom Brady quarterback. You know what I mean? It's not all about and Tom Brady wasn't the first round pick, but it's not all about the sexy quarterbacks. You know, it's the guys that are in between the trenches that make it up. And Mikey, we got to do a little housekeeping though, right? Next weekend, because of Thanksgiving, there will not be a show, correct?
Correct. So we'll pick a best of, and we wish you guys all a very happy holiday, a blessed holiday. Enjoy your time with the family. And
make sure to
day
get to
off
iTunes, leave us a review, a 5-star rating. We'll be back in a few weeks, and we're going to have some contests and some giveaways during December for the Christmas season. So more to come about that in a few weeks.
Outstanding. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thanks for joining us this week for the Mike Abadir Show. Please tune in again next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Time for another show with Mike and his co-host, Gino Bacola, on the Voice America Sports Channel. Have a great week.